welcome to the Pick and Roll podcast. And today I've got a good one for you guys. So like I introed last week and built up last week, was this upcoming week and next few weeks is going to be back to full player breakdowns. So basically, about a week ago on last week's podcast, there was the NBA Draft Combine invites. And on that list, I'd say 28 of them I had not scouted and not put on my big board that, you can find my website of. So basically the next few weeks, we're going to be watching those full game breakdowns and really scouting those guys, breaking them down so we have a good understanding for them. So when, the big boards mock drafts comes out, we have, good information on these guys. So this is going to be the full game breakdowns for these guys. So the games that are going to be talked about today. Game 1 was going to be Alabama versus UConn. Got Mark Sears in this game, Alex Caravan, Tristan Newton, Cam Spencer. Yes, I do know Donovan Kling and Stephon Castle were in that game, but I just wanted to watch specifically these guys because I already have a good feel on Castle and Kling and do the old amount of games to watch from them. Game number 2 was Neflale Dante, center from Oregon, versus the point guard from Colorado, KJ Simpson. Again, I've watched Tristan Da Silva and Cody Williams enough. I have a very good feel of what their games are. So it's not really needed to break those guys down. The next game was New Mexico versus Colorado State. So JT Toppin, a power forward from New Mexico, and Nick Clifford, a shooting guard from Colorado State, were the guys that watched from that game. The next game was Grand Canyon versus St. Mary's. In that game, Grand Canyon had Tyon Grant Foster. I guess you can call him a shooting guard / small forward since he's 6'7". And the fifth and final game that broke down is gonna break down is Houston versus BYU. Jamal Shed, 6'1" point guard versus 6'7" shooting guard / small forward Jackson Robinson. Really interesting game. Can't wait to break this stuff down for you guys. And I also have a little bit of extra content. So basically, there is a top 5 pick that I came up with a comparison for that I haven't been able to come up with a comparison for throughout this whole draft season. At the end of all this breakdowns, I will give you that top 5 pick pro player comparison that I just have not been able to figure out for a very long time. All right, so the first guy to break down from the games is Alabama versus UConn is Mark Sears, 6'1" point guard from Alabama, averaging 21.5 points per game, 4 assists, 4 rebounds, 43% field goal percentage. 43% three-point percentage, 50% field goal percentage. And he is averaging 21 points per game, 4 assists, 4.2 rebounds, 50% field goal percentage, 43% three-point percentage, and 0.1 block and 1.2 steals. So when it comes to Mark Sears, he's got a very good three-point shot. Athletically, there's a lot to be desired. He's not overly quick, overly fast, or really vertically athletic. He's below average in a lot of areas NBA-wise. He's a good pick and roll operator, though. Makes really good passes out of it, especially to the perimeter, to three-point shooters. He moves off ball really well. He's a real threat three-point shot-wise. Pull three-point shots and has some range to it as well. The issues is, with the game against UConn, you got to watch him play against 6'4" Cam Spencer, 6'5" Tristan Newton, 6'5" Stephon Castle, and in moments where he was against NBA length, he looked like he had real issues getting a shot off. There's a lot of times where he had to pick up the ball up in the dribble to the rim and just couldn't get anything going. If he doesn't let's say he's driving to the rim, right? If he stops, right? And if he doesn't get somebody to bite on the pump fake for him to go up and under and finish at the rim, he can't really do anything. He's not, an utterly amazing at jumping through bodies and, at the rim, and he's going to finish at the rim in elite ways. And he's got some good shot creation, but it's not overly super elite where he's going to be able to get it over the length. He probably scored 5 to 6 points around length. It was rough. Those situations, it looked really, really bad. And put those together, and you understand that in the NBA, that's the issue. Is NBA's got a lot of length at every single position. It's much more athletic than college, right? So, the things that he struggles with is the exact things that he's going to deal with at the next level. I was honestly expecting him to look better because he looked, he's such a good college basketball player, and I thought he would look better. But, when I view him in the lens of like how he translates to the NBA, it's not as good as I thought. I thought he would remind me more of Jalen Brunson, but it's more like a poor man's Jalen Brunson. There's some upside to him being a 3-point, a backup point guard in the NBA. Defensively, he's also below average because he's 6'1", might be 6 foot, so it's just a small point guard. So, defensively, he's average at best, but realistically below average. So right now, I have him graded as a 45 through 50 draft pick player. I mean, yeah, he does have some upside to be a backup point guard. There's some potential of that, but, the things that I saw really worry. The length and the issues in those situations just... It's a bad red flag because that's the exact question mark that he is going to always have to answer. And I just don't feel like he answered that at Alabama. Alrighty, let's go ahead and kick it to the next side of that game. Let's go ahead and go Alex Caravan from UConn for 6'8", averaging 13.3 points per game, 5.1 rebounds, 1.5 assists, 49% field goal percentage, 37% three-point percentage, 0.9 steals, and 0.8 blocks. So, when it comes to Alex Caravan, 6'8", moves off ball really well, especially for the size. He definitely is somebody that's an elite three-point shooter, shows flashes of being able to catch and shoot from deep three as well. He's obviously a great off-ball shooter, being able to be somebody that can catch the ball in situations where he has the ball, somebody's driving to the rim and collapsing the defense. He could definitely make defenses pay at the three-point line, which is nice. Definitely feel like whenever somebody does overcommit to trying to close him out to the three-point line, he's gotten better than last year at dribbling and attacking the rim in those situations. The real big thing was last year, he couldn't defend well enough at all to get him in the NBA. It was too tight-hipped. It was not fluid enough. It was just really poor, and it looked like it was never going to get there due to just lack of athletic gifts and tightness. But, the head coach for UConn's done one heck of a job because he's definitely improved a ton on that end to being average, below average defender. But, comparing average, below average NBA defender this year coming out in this draft class and last year when he was coming out would have been absolutely terrible, not NBA ready NBA talent last year because of defense. So, even though he may still be not on the level of above average NBA defender, a good NBA defender, the jump is really big. So, the tightness is not as tight. He's much better. He's not as vertically athletic. He hasn't grown much year one to year two. Vertical athleticism or straight line speed, but lateral quickness and the overall defensive shuffle and like how to do things of that nature and like less tightness of the hips is definitely something he improved greatly in. And because of that, I didn't notice it throughout the year. He's going to be a pretty solid pick. I have him graded as a 36 through 40 pick level talent. I have a comp for him as, I don't know if you guys remember this guy, but Ryan Anderson was in the NBA for a while. It's like a 6'9", stretch 4 for a while in the NBA. He was a slower guy. Defensively was okay. I think he's slightly better than Ryan Anderson defensively coming out, but I can definitely see him having a similar career as him to being an eighth, anywhere from the 8th to the 11th guy off the bench for the NBA for a while because of the three-point shot. And, he can really shoot. He can really shoot. Moving off ball at 6'8" is really interesting value. So me personally, power forward / small forward, rotational piece is something that he can be in the NBA. So right now, I have him graded as a 36 through 40 level player. I was really interested watching him, watching a full game of him. And, because of him and somebody else, we will be watching another full game of UConn to try to make sure I have a full understanding of him and the other guy. that I'm going to break down next. All right, so the next guy to break down from the UConn team is Tristan Newton, 6'5". We'll call him a combo guard, averaging 15.1 points per game, 6.6 rebounds, 6.2 assists, 41% field goal percentage, 32% three-point percentage, 0.9 steals, 0.3 blocks. Point guards wise, he's an average passer with the point guard position. It's okay. He's a decent finisher at the rim, but his lack of strength in his body frame and really a thin body frame is an issue that translates to very much average finisher at the rim. He has a decent pull-up mid-range shot. Below average defender. I would call him a little tight hip. He gets beat pretty well off ball and off of the dribble if somebody's a little quicker. We pair that with a really thin body frame, especially for a senior. Definitely a little bit of a question mark defensively. He obviously has some shot creation abilities, but I don't think it's to the point where it's going to really translate to the NBA and be tough shot creation level to be that, either sixth man or, starter for a team. Me personally, I feel very confident in the comp of a poor man, Spencer Dinwiddie. Spencer Dinwiddie is a little more athletic and strong than Tristan Newton, around the same height. I think Spencer Dinwiddie is 6'6", so that's why I have that comp for him. I have him graded as a 55 through 60 draft pick, but he's definitely somebody that, just like Carabin, I am going to want to watch at least one more game of before I'm 100% confirmed on where I would view him. But right now, I still have him as a 55 through 60 draft pick. All right, so the last guy to break down from this UConn group that I got abandoned of the combine is Cam Spencer. He's listed at 6'4". I think he looks 6'3", so he's somewhere in that range. Two guard, averaging 14.3 points per game, 4.9 rebounds, 3.6 assists, 48% field goal percentage, 44% three percentage, 1.5 steals, 0.3 blocks. He was a very good on-ball, off-ball mover. Obviously a very good three-point shooter. 44% three-point percentage is really nice. Offensively, though, he doesn't really have any other NBA skill where you believe in the pull-up mid-range shot developing into the NBA guy, or he's going to put a ton of pressure at the rim. No, he's not really going to really put a ton of pressure at the rim in the next level. It's kind of limited to off-ball mover. The real question mark is defensively. He's average, below average, poor athlete in the NBA, paired with a thinner frame and 6'3", 6'4" height. Definitely is going to be a huge question mark defensively. He can move off ball well and he shoots the three-point shot well, but there's 1,001 people that are 6'4", 6'3" that can shoot the three in the NBA. It's a really deep skill set, and if you're just limited to that, it's really hard to crack into the NBA, which is what he's limited to, and he's not very good defensively. So, me personally, I have him graded as a 65 through 70 pick level talent. I personally don't feel like we need to watch to scout him again. I feel like I'm very 100% set on the way I view Cam Spencer. All right, so that next game in the breakdown is Oregon versus Colorado. The first part of that breakdown is going to be Oregon side, which is Nafale Dante, 6'11" center. Oregon, he is averaging 17 points per game, 9.2 rebounds, 1.6 assists, 69% field goal percentage, which is honestly pretty impressive. 0% three-point percentage, 1.7 steals, 1.9 blocks. So, he's got the dude's rocked up. I mean, Dante is one strong human being. Dude looks like a bodybuilder out there. I mean, the body frame is nice. And the body frame really translates to being really good at rebounds, being really good at setting screens because he just has so much size. He's also a good vertical athlete, which really translates to being a very good lob threat at the rim and a good rim defender at the rim, because we pair his size and strength and body frame with vertical athleticus. You get somebody that can deal with somebody jumping into his body like a Marcus Smart, for example, and not moving him that much, and then still having the athleticus to shot block against a guy like that, for example. His lack of lateral quickness and tight hips will hold him back from ever being a starter in the NBA, though. He's much more gifted vertically than he is quickness and hips and just overall smoothness wise. Me personally, though, I feel like I got a really good comp for him is Festus Ezeli. Festus Ezeli, if you guys don't know, he was like in the NBA for like 15 years. He was the backup center to Andrew Bogut when the Golden State Warriors won their first championship in 2015. He was definitely somebody that's a very good lob threat, set screens well, pick and roll and lob, rebounded well, athletic, strong, defended the rim well, rebounded well, had a really great body frame, very tight in the hips. So, I definitely feel really confident in the Festus Ezeli comp. I personally have him in the 35 through 40 draft pick range. I think people don't really understand how, NBA views likes these kind of centers, powerful human being centers, than really thin, super switchable guys, because they translate to rebounding well and, defending the rim much better and sending good screens and things of that nature. The NBA center position is a grown man center, it's grown man league. They got big human beings that got to play against, and, this kind of body frame and size at 6'11" is definitely ideal. So I could definitely see him being a good long-term backup in the NBA, just like Festus Ezeli was. So that's why I have him graded as a 35 through 40 pick level talent. All right, so the next guy to break down is from Colorado's side of this game, which is KJ Simpson, 6'2" point guard, averaging 19.7 points per game, 4.9 rebounds, 4 assists, 50% field goal percentage, 39% 3%, 1.2 steals, 0.4 blocks. So he's got average height for the point guard position, which, not like it could be worse. It could be 6 foot. 6'2" is pretty solid average height. He's a good 3-point shooter. Got a good mid-range shot. Flashes some really interesting shot creation. At the end of the shot clocks where he's got to get up a shot, but he'll do like a step back 3 or something like that. The footwork on those type of things is really interesting. Below average athlete, but he is like a smooth guy. So that's nice. He's going to be an average defender at best, maybe a below average defender, realistically speaking. Average passer. He could definitely be a score first backup point guard in the NBA. Somebody that definitely fits that NBA backup point guard mold. So I do have KJ Simpson as a 40 through 45 pick level talent. Also KJ Simpson and Fale Dante. I do feel like I don't need to watch any more games to get a good feel of these two guys, unless somebody else from the Pac-12 I'm going to have to watch. But those two guys I feel very, very comfortable with at their rankings. Alrighty, so the next game to break down is New Mexico versus Colorado State, and we'll go ahead and break down JT Toppin, 6'9" freshman from New Mexico first. He's averaging 12.3 points per game, 9.1 rebounds, 0.6 assists, 62% field goal percentage, 34% three-point percentage, 1.1 blocks, 1.9 blocks, 1.1 steals. So this guy's a good athlete, not overwhelmingly great, but he's a good athlete, moves well on the perimeter defensively, looks really smooth. He plays the center position for New Mexico. Actually, I think he actually plays power forward. Even though he has a 34% three-point percentage, I didn't see him do any catch and shoot 3-point shots, but it looks like he's shot like around 33 threes throughout the year, so he's averaged like about 1 attempt a game. The only skill that you see from him is post skill. And it's really deep within the post, like 4 to 5 feet out of far away from the basket. That's about his only skill that he has. So, the issue is 6'9" is not a center. So, his ideal position is obviously power forward with 6'9", looks long, good athlete, can defend well in the perimeter. He's an obvious hope that he could be a 3-and-D guy. But complete utter lack for skill of a handle, anything really outside of 4 to 6 feet and catching in the post and some very basic post moves is the issue, because there's a ton of skill development that's needed for this guy. This guy is a project. I personally have him graded as a 71 through 75 draft pick. I think this is somebody you draft maybe in like this really late in the second, maybe stash in the G League for 6-7 years, or maybe, somehow get their rights and something like that, maybe have them in the summer league. But me personally, if I'm giving JT Toppin advice, I'd say don't go to the NBA too soon, because if he does, he'll be in the G League for 6 years, and it may not even ever work out. So, yeah, that's my take on JT Toppin 6'9" power forward from New Mexico. All right, so the next guy to break down from that game is Nick Clifford from Colorado State, 6'6", 2 guard, averaging 12.2 points per game, 7.6 rebounds, 3 assists, 52% field goal percentage, 37% three-point percentage, 1.4 steals, 0.9 blocks. He's a really smooth guy. Maybe an above-average NBA athlete, maybe just average. Really smooth, though. Defends really well on ball. His smoothness really translates to being a very good on-ball defender. Good size for the two-guard position. 6'6" is really nice. Definitely above average at the very least, but definitely in general sense, good size. Moves off ball as a three-point shooter. He's a guy that can attack at the rim. He looks capable of it. I call him maybe average for the NBA. He's a pretty decent passer for the two-guard position. Makes good decisions, winning decisions on passes to make. Not really anything interesting shot creation outside of some basic stuff like a pull-up mid-range shot. Some really basic stuff. He could definitely be a solid backup two guard in the NBA, a 3-and-D two guard. I have him graded as a 35 through 40 pick level player. He kind of reminds me of Nickeil Alexander-Walker, what he is right now for the Minnesota Timberwolves as their backup two guard when Anthony Edwards isn't on the floor. Like a good defender, shoot the three, capable with the ball in his hands, makes good decisions, cares about winning, makes good winning passes, does like swing passes to somebody that's open. I could definitely see Nick Clifford being similar to what Nickeil Alexander is right now. And also about Nickeil Alexander, we will be watching him in the future. I do feel like I gotta watch at least one more game of Nick Clifford to really have a good feel for him. Alrighty, so the next game to break down is Tyon Grant Foster from Grand Canyon. So he's averaging 20 points per game, 6.1 rebounds, 1.6 assists, 44% field goal percentage, 33% three-point percentage. So, he's 6'7". He's a good athlete that attacks the rim in extremely elite ways. I mean, this guy has a nice, a veer finish, which is kind of step to the left near the rim when as the defender kind of defending the rim specifically speaking. So has a nice spin move. He just has really elite touch where he can hit shots off of really tough angles and just really is really good. His first step is extremely quick. Nobody really can stay in front of him. But he also does a really good job of changing speeds really well. He's really good at hesitating and slowing down his pace and then exploding. He does that extremely well. And you pair that extremely good change of pace, and, a rim attacking abilities and touch at the rim. Get somebody who's an elite rim attacker. He's very, very good in that area. He also has some flashes of shot creating off of the hesitations and change of speeds, where he'll step back and hit a three or step back and hit a mid-range. And, he's got a really good game that skill-wise plays off of those abilities that he naturally has getting to the rim. He's also got a long wingspan. He's a long, lanky guy. He's a very good on-ball defender. He's a very good team defender as well. And, he's really interesting because 6'7", definitely he can guard 1 through 4. So, there's no worry about him not being able to guard two guards. Klay Thompson 6'7", Kevin Huerter 6'7". There's a few 6'7". Kobe Bryant was 6'7", so there's a few guys that are 6'7" two guards. I definitely feel like it's a better fit for him than a small forward, even though he could play both positions. Me personally, I view the reason why. Okay, so I view him as a 10 through 12 pick level talent. Because of Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, he checks off a lot of boxes that makes Shai scoring SGA, not the passing, because he can't pass like SGA. But scoring-wise, SGA's ability to be really long, 6'6", Tyon Grant Foster 6'7", he has a very similar quick first step, and he can get by somebody and has really great touch and finishing ability near the rim. And, he has a really good change of pace and allows him to attack the rim even better. And he has a really elite shot creation off of that, elite gifts attacking the rim. So that's why there's a lot of SGA there, scoring skill wise, rim attacking wise, and shot creation off of those abilities. So, I do feel like there's a lot of SGA there. He's a little more athletic and a little taller than him, which is nice for him. But, the issue is he's 24. So because he's so old and he had like a heart issue that really, stunted him from being able to be around basketball and, being able to probably be drafted earlier in his age time frame. 24 is pretty old. It's going to be really interesting to see how much his draft stock is impacted by how old he is. Right now, I have him around guys that are 15 through 18 pick level talents, even though he's a 10 through 12 because of 24-year-old age. It's really interesting. I definitely feel like there's a lot of really interesting things here, but him being 24 definitely has a question mark on how much more can his game grow while adjusting to the NBA and things of that nature. But it's some special things there you just can't teach. So it's really, really interesting because it's a really interesting game and skill set that he has off of those gifts that he has attacking the rim. Me personally, I do definitely. We will continue to watch him multiple weeks. Next week, we're going to watch him as well. I don't feel like we have enough game film to have a full grasp on what time Grant Foster is, but the skill and the ability is just the real deal. It's the real deal. Really interesting stuff. All right, so the last game to break down is Houston versus BYU. So to go ahead and break down the first person from that game, which is Jamal Shed, 6'1" point guard from Houston, 12.9 points per game, 3.7 rebounds, 6.3 assists, 40% 30 points field goal percentage, 30.9% 3-point percentage, 2.2 steals, 0.5 blocks. So his shooting splits are definitely an issue for a senior, especially the 30% 3-point percentage. The 3-point shooting from smaller guards in the NBA is like you either have it or you're not in the NBA. So that's definitely a big time question mark for him. And, he shows some flashes, some shot creation, but it's not super translatable. He's extremely good on ball defender. He's probably the best defensive point guard in this draft class, specifically for the point guard position. Stephon Castle's probably more switchable and fluid in guard more positions. So Castle's probably a better switchability, but just purely only point guards. Jamal Shed's the best. He's definitely amazing at those things. Me personally I have him as not as good as a 3-point shooting Javon Carter. Javon Carter from West Virginia was a multiple DPOY kind of guy, or at least with the Big 12 coming out of West Virginia. Similar kind of guy, body build as well to Jamal Shed, but he was shooting 40% from the 3-point line coming out of college, so it's a really big gap there. So me personally, I have him graded at 45 through 50 draft pick player. He has an obvious 3-and-D point guard upside. It's just the 3-point shot and the shot creation and the passing. Also, he's an average point guard passer. It's definitely going to need to be the things that can allow him to be in the NBA. But the defense is a thing that's very, very interesting. I have him a 45 through 50 pick level talent. All right, so the last guy to break down is from BYU, which is Jackson Robinson, 6'7" senior, averaging 14.2 points per game, 2.5 rebounds, 1.3 assists, 42% field goal percentage, 35% 3-point percentage, with 0.7 steals and 0.4 blocks. So, he's a very good 3-point shooter, flashes deep 3-point shot shooting, shows some flashes with the handle and getting ability to go attack the rim. He's an average athlete, an average defender with a thinner frame. His offensive upside and ability to be a shot creating, shooting bench small forward is interesting. Me personally, I have him graded a 40 through 45 pick level talent. I do want to see one more full game of him to get a better feel of his game because it was really interesting shot selection. I'm curious to see if he really shoots that deep from 3 every single game or if it was just like a fluke game. So it's a really interesting guy, but I have him graded a 40 through 45 pick level talent, and it could possibly be a scoring small forward in the NBA. All right, so that's going to be the end of this week's breakdowns. So I'll go ahead and intro what's going to be going on next week. So I got all these games planned out already. So the first game that I'm going to break down next week is Duke versus Wake Forest. I've been, obviously, if you guys listen to me, I've been low on Jared McCain throughout this whole draft process. Let me give him a full game where I'm just only watching him from the Duke side. 6'3", shooting guard. Wake Forest is playing in the same game with Hunter Silas, 6'5", shooting guard. I'm really looking forward to watching that game and breaking that down. The second game that we're breaking down next week is Grand Canyon versus San Diego State. So that's going to be Tyon Grant Foster that just broke down from Grand Canyon. That's so flashes of SGA. San Diego State's got probably one of the better defensive teams in all of college basketball last year. So that's going to be really interesting watching that. I cannot wait to see him against some seriously good defense because San Diego State's got a really good defense team. Next game to break down is Boston College versus University of Virginia. So we're going to have Ryan Dunn and Reese Beekman from the UVA side, and Quentin Post, who is actually somebody that I thought for a second during the regular season that we were going to watch and break down before he got invited to the combine. I'm surprised he did. 7-footer from Boston College, shoots the three really well. And the fourth game to break down next week is going to be Creighton versus UConn. So Creighton has obviously Trey Alexander and Ryan Kalkbrenner, who we've broken down in the past, so don't need to be breaking up. But Baylor Shireman, 6'7", shooting guard, is somebody that will be broken down. And this is going to be Alex Caravan and Tristan Newton from UConn that I'm going to break down during that game, since Cam Spencer is not viewed as somebody that I need to watch next game. And I already feel like I understand Stephon Castle and Donovan Clingan, so I don't need to watch that next game. And then the next game after that will be the last game breaking down next week is USF's Jonathan Magbo. He's a 6'8" forward. Really can't wait to watch that game as well. So that's what's going to be broken down next week. Alrighty, so then last thing to break down is that extra special comp for a top 5 pick player in the NBA draft season, which is Cody Williams. Cody Williams is a guy that's 6'8", long, lanky, drive to the rim well, shoot the three extremely well, defends really well, not a lot of shot creation there. And my comp for him is Richard Jefferson. Richard Jefferson, had about a 5 to 8 year stretch where he was averaging 18 a game, and he done it with really elite rim attacking and good 3-point shooting, and just being extremely elite at those things where he wasn't shot creating in the mid-range like Joe Johnson and Melo and LeBron during that time frame. But he was somebody that could shoot the three, be really dominant attacking the rim. He was a highly intelligent basketball player. That was a really great fit on winning basketball team, right? Just like I said about Cody Williams, he could be the third best player in an NBA championship team. Well, Richard Jefferson was the third best player on the Brooklyn Nets when they had Vince and J-Kidd, and they went to the finals twice and had a really good run there. So, I definitely feel like him and Richard Jefferson's a really good comp. I think he's a better passing version, and he shows more flashes of the pick and roll. There's one flash, one time that I watch him run the pick and roll operate. Looks really smooth coming out of it. And in one of the 6 or 7 games that I watched Cody Williams there, he did that. But, Richard Jefferson is somebody that I feel very confident in for the comp. I feel like that's such a good one for Cody Williams. So that's a little extra content here at the end. I really appreciate anybody that listens to the podcast, recommends the podcast to their friends, shares the podcast, does whatever that does. I really appreciate it if you just enjoy it. Don't share with anybody. I really appreciate it. It's going to be the flow for the next few weeks for the NBA Combine guys that I don't have scouted yet. We'll be watching full games. So yeah, I'm really excited about it. Hopefully you're all having a great week, and thanks for listening. Peace out.